If you'd asked me how life was going 6 months ago, I'd probably have said, not bad. Which, in guy speak, really means, everything's on fire, but I'm pretending it's just warm. I was married. 9 years. Her name was Rachel. Marketing exec, high-functioning, high heels, and high drama wrapped in a perfectly curated Instagram page. She made busy look like a personality trait. And me? I ran a real estate firm. Steady, boring, dependable Ben. I started noticing things a year ago. She changed her perfume. Started locking her phone. Had client dinners that ran past midnight on Tuesdays. Tuesdays, man. You don't cheat on a Tuesday unless you're committed to it. But I played dumb. Not because I didn't suspect. Trust me, I did. I just didn't want to believe that I'd become that guy. The one who gets blindsided. The one people whisper about behind their coffee mugs. Then came her company's gala. The night everything stopped pretending. Black tie, fancy hors d'oeuvres. The kind of jazz band that plays songs no one recognizes, but everyone pretends to enjoy. I didn't want to go. She insisted. Said it was important. Image matters, she said, adjusting her lipstick in the mirror. That should have been the first red flag. When your wife's more worried about how you look next to her than how you feel around her. We got there, did the rounds. She worked the room like a politician up for re-election. I hung near the bar, nursing a whiskey and counting the minutes. That's when he showed up. Her boss, Greg. He walked over like he owned the place, and maybe he did, judging by the way everyone treated him. Tall, smug, expensive haircut. He clinked his glass against mine, grinned, and leaned in like we were college buddies. Congratulations, Ben, he said. You're going to be a father. I knocked up your wife. I didn't respond. Not because I was stunned, though, yeah, I was, but because I honestly thought I misheard him. I looked at Rachel, waiting for her to laugh it off. Tell me it was some awful joke. But she just gave me that half smile she'd been practicing lately, the kind that says, yeah, and what are you going to do about it? Then she said it. And you won't even divorce me, remember? No fault state, babe. You lose either way. That was the moment something snapped in me. Quiet. Clean. Not rage. Not yet. Just clarity. I didn't argue. Didn't yell. I just nodded, turned around, and walked out to the valet. Not to leave. Just to get something from my glove box. When I came back, the music had changed to some slow jazz number. People were laughing, sipping wine, oblivious. Rachel was still at the bar with Greg, sipping her drink like she hadn't just blown up our marriage. I walked up, calm as a surgeon, dropped an envelope on the bar next to her cocktail. Said one word, read. She hesitated. Greg reached for it like he had something to prove. I looked him dead in the eye and said, your resignation letter. Rachel opened it. Her face changed. She went pale like a ghost saw her. She flipped to the second page, the hotel receipts, the screenshots, the messages, the time-stamped photos. Greg went red. How did you? I said. You really shouldn't let your side piece keep a shared Apple account with her husband. Rookie move. The jazz band stopped playing. A glass shattered somewhere behind us. And that's when I realized I wasn't the fool. I was the fuse. And they had just lit me. Greg looked like someone had just yanked his career out of his chest. Rachel? She was frozen mid-breath, one hand gripping the bar, the other still holding those papers like they might self-destruct. She whispered, Ben, please. I just tilted my head. Please what? She didn't have an answer. Because she wasn't used to me talking like that. I was always the calm one. The fixer. The guy who took the hit and smiled through it. Not that night. Greg stepped toward me like he was going to puff up and make it physical. Bold move for a guy who'd just admitted to knocking up another man's wife. I looked him square in the eye. You so much as flinch, and the next envelope goes to your board of directors, with a lovely annotated breakdown of how you violated both company policy and federal HR compliance. He blinked. That puffed-up posture collapsed into a guy just realizing his career might not survive brunch. Now, here's the thing. I didn't just walk into that gala hoping to catch them. I'd already filed for divorce 2 weeks earlier. Quietly. With a lawyer who specializes in asset protection and reputational risk. I wasn't new to this. I'd just been underestimated. And man, nothing's more dangerous than the guy no one's watching. I'd made copies of everything. Her laptop backups. Her cloud. Bank transfers. Hotel receipts. She made it so easy. She actually used my credit card for a few of those conferences. Like I wouldn't notice the hotel was in a different city than the conference. After I dropped the envelope, I gave them both one last look, the kind I hadn't used since I was grinding to build my real estate firm from a rented basement and a folding table. Then I said, "We're done." I left my wedding ring next to her half-finished cocktail. Walked out without another word. Not a shout. Not a slam. Just peace. That eerie kind that shows up right after you've set something on fire and turned your back to the blaze. Outside, it was cold, but I didn't feel it. What I did feel was lighter. The next day, I let her calls go to voicemail. The tone had changed. Gone was the smugness. Now it was soft. Tentative. "Ben, last night got out of hand. Can we please just talk before we do anything drastic?" "Oh, honey, that ship didn't just sail. It was halfway to international waters with my lawyer waving from the deck." Greg called too. Less polite. Something like, "You had no right to expose us like that. I could lose everything." I saved that voicemail. Not because I needed evidence. I just thought it'd make a great ringtone someday. That afternoon, I moved all our shared funds into an escrow account. Legal. Clean. Pending court approval. I also sent an anonymous package to her company's ethics department. Greg, by the way, was technically her supervisor. That's what HR likes to call a nightmare scenario. 2 days later, he was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Oops. And Rachel? She showed up at the house the next morning, banging on the door like I was hiding treasure. I opened it just enough for her to see my face. "You don't live here anymore," I said. Her mascara was already running. That threw me off. Rachel never cried unless it was strategic. "Ben, please. They're suspending Greg. HR is. This could ruin us." I almost laughed. "You gave him a baby. I gave him a probation review. Feels fair." She flinched. For once, she wasn't in control. And me? I wasn't angry. Not anymore. What I felt was colder. Clearer. Like the storm had passed, and now I could finally see what was left standing. The morning after HR put Greg on indefinite leave, Rachel showed up again. This time she didn't knock. Just stood outside, pacing the porch, talking to herself like a woman rehearsing a speech she already knew wouldn't land. I watched from the window, coffee in hand. Calm. She finally looked up and said, "Ben, I made a mistake." I opened the door just enough to say, "Which part? The affair, the pregnancy, or assuming I'd just roll over and fund your little disaster?" That shut her up. Here's what people don't understand about betrayal. It doesn't blow the house down in one gust. It seeps in slow, warps the foundation. By the time you notice, the walls are tilting and the pictures don't hang straight anymore. She tried to walk in. I stepped in her way. "You planned baby announcements with your boss and a legal strategy against your husband in the same breath," I said. "That wasn't a mistake. That was a business plan." Her mouth opened, closed. She looked like she forgot her lines. Maybe she thought I'd still be the guy who left notes in her lunchbox and apologized first, even when I wasn't wrong. That guy was gone. Now, Rachel thrived in a world built on perception. Brunches, charity events, curated stories with the right filter. She lived for compliments from people who'd stab her with a salad fork if it meant a better table at the fundraiser. So I made sure the truth found its way to them. No embellishment. Just screenshots. Timeline. Hotel receipts. A note attached. "She's not who you think she is." By the end of the week, her Instagram went private. Comments turned off. The post where she announced the pregnancy, wiped. Her followers dropped by the hundreds. I didn't say a word. Didn't gloat. Just watched it happen. And then, out of nowhere, I got a call. From her sister. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up. "Ben," she said, voice low. "I know you don't want to hear from anyone in our family, but you didn't deserve this. None of it." She told me Rachel had moved back in with their parents. Her mom stopped hosting her bridge club since the scandal. Her dad, the one who once asked me if I was man enough to keep up with Rachel's ambition, hadn't said a word in days. Apparently shame echoes louder when it's in your own house. Then came the kicker. Her sister added, "We all saw it, you know. The shift. The way she started treating you like an accessory, not a partner. I just didn't think she'd go this far." I didn't say much. Just thanked her and hung up. The next week, I was in Montana. A cabin near Flathead Lake. No phone service. No noise. Just air clean enough to taste and silence thick enough to think. I brought books, fishing gear, and a bottle of bourbon I'd been saving for a special occasion. Apparently surviving a public ambush by your own wife counts. I didn't think about Rachel. Not really. I thought about the things I'd forgotten I loved, the smell of wood smoke, The way water sounds when you cast a line. How bourbon burns less when you're not nursing a broken heart. On the third night, I got a knock on the door. It was Eli Mason, my old friend from college. We hadn't seen each other in years. Still looked like the same guy who used to beat me at poker and steal fries off my plate. He held up a postcard I'd sent him a week earlier. "You went full lumberjack," he said with a grin. "Thought you were joking." Decided to find out. We stayed up late, drinking and talking like it was 2008. He'd heard some of what happened. I filled in the rest. When I finished, he just shook his head and said, "You didn't just burn the bridge, man. You turned it into a tourist attraction." I laughed for the first time in weeks. Eli stuck around for a few days. He cooked better than me, drank heavier than me, and beat me at chess like it was personal. But more than that, he reminded me what I'd lost way before the affair, myself. One night, we sat on the porch, bourbon in hand, fire crackling low. He looked over and said, "You know what your problem was?" "Only one." I asked. He smirked. "You kept trying to build a life with someone who was busy building a ladder out of you. And that hit harder than any of the texts I'd found in Rachel's cloud." He was right. I poured another drink and let that truth settle. 3 weeks later, I came back to town. Fresh shave. Clear head. The legal stuff was moving. Rachel had gone quiet. No calls, no emails. Just the kind of silence that makes you wonder if someone's planning a comeback or finally running out of ammo. Then the real surprise came. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "Ben Walker," the voice said. Female. Calm. Speaking. "My name's Mara. I think we should talk." There was a pause. "I'm Greg's wife." "Yeah, that Greg." We met at a small cafe across town. Neutral ground. She wore business clothes like armor, navy blazer, hair tight, sharper than her cheekbones. She shook my hand like someone used to being underestimated. "I want you to know," she said, sitting down, "you're not the only one cleaning up their mess." She slid a folder across the table. Inside? A gold mine. Timelines. Screenshots. Flight itineraries. Hotel overlap. Credit card charges from cities neither of us were supposed to be in. Turns out Rachel wasn't Greg's first, just his latest. "He's charming," she said flatly, "but not as smart as he thinks." I scanned the documents. One line stood out, a hotel in Denver booked under his name, while Greg was supposedly in Boston for a leadership summit. Rachel had posted a wineglass selfie that same night. Same hotel curtains in the background. Amateurs. I looked up. "Why give this to me?" She sipped her coffee. "Because I've got kids to protect. And you've got a future to rebuild. This helps both of us." After Mara left, I sat there for a while, just flipping through that folder. You'd think revenge would feel hot, fiery, explosive. But no, this felt cool. Calculated. Surgical. That night, I emailed my attorney. "Let's move up the timeline. I'm ready." Next morning, I got a voicemail from Rachel. "Ben, I know you're still mad. I get it. But this doesn't have to be a war. We can work through this." I forwarded it to my lawyer without even listening to the end. And then, just because I was in the mood to stir the pot, I made a quiet call to the ethics board again. Let's just say Greg's leave became something more permanent. By the end of the week, their company released a bland press statement. "Leadership transition is underway." Translation: Greg was out. Rachel? Suspended pending review. I'd never raised my voice. Never touched her. Never even threatened her. Just facts. Just truth. And patience. One day, I was packing boxes when I heard my phone buzz again. It was Rachel's sister. "She's crashing," she said. "Greg's gone. Their parents are furious. Her friends won't return her messages." "She ever ask why I never fought for her?" I asked. "She doesn't get it," the sister said. "She thinks you're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being honest. For once." The funny thing about silence? It doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it just means someone's out of ammo. Rachel hadn't called in over a week. Not once. Which would have been suspicious if I didn't know her so well. She was regrouping. Rebuilding the narrative. Probably trying to cast herself as the misunderstood woman caught in a complicated situation. She didn't know the ending was already written. I met Mara again, Greg's wife, at a quiet little park on the edge of town. No cameras, no coffee shop chatter. Just us, a folder between us, and a quiet kind of rage that made her hands shake a little. "This," she said, sliding another packet across the bench, "is his burner phone." I pulled the SIM before he noticed it was missing. I raised an eyebrow. "You always this tactical?" She gave a half smile. I'm a corporate attorney. Greg must have forgotten. Inside were texts, voice memos, pictures. Rachel and Greg were a walking scandal. Hotel beds, wine glasses, messages like, "Your husband will fold first, mine's too soft." And the one that finally made my jaw clench, "Ben will never do anything. He doesn't have it in him." Wrong. Mara saw my face. "That's the one that did it for me too," she said. "He said the same thing about me." Guess we're both full of surprises. Later that week, I filed the final motion. Financial disclosures, prenup triggers, spousal support blocked under the infidelity clause. Her name wasn't on the house title. It was a flip I bought before we married. She never cared. Now she would. Rachel's attorney, finally hired, reached out. "Ms. Walker believes this approach is unnecessarily aggressive." I laughed. "Tell Ms. Walker I'm just holding up a mirror." Then the phone rang again. Not Rachel. Greg's ex, again. This time her tone was different. Steadier. Cooler. "I found something," she said. Turned out Greg had been hiding more than affairs. He'd been shifting funds from a shared business account. Small amounts. But over time, tens of thousands. She hadn't caught it until now. "You think Rachel knew?" I asked. "I think Rachel didn't care, as long as the dinners stayed 5-star. We agreed. Time to go public. Mara had a quiet contact, an HR journalist who specialized in corporate ethics breakdowns. Anonymous source. Just enough info to light the match. The article dropped on a Tuesday. When affairs meet expense reports, the silent cost of leadership scandals. No names. But if you knew, you knew. By Wednesday, Rachel's company issued another internal memo. Pending further review, employee responsibilities will be restructured. Translation, they were bracing for blowback. That night, I went through some of the old stuff she left behind, makeup bags, untouched books, clothes she never wore twice. It all looked like someone else's life. Like I'd been renting space in a stranger's house. Then I saw the photo. Us. On our second anniversary. She had her feet on my lap, and that lazy, genuine smile that didn't need an audience. And I felt nothing. No longing. No bitterness. Just distance. Like remembering a place you used to live before it got bulldozed. That weekend, I got a call I didn't expect. From her. Not Rachel. Not Mara. Someone else. "You don't know me," she said. "But I know who you are. And I think we should talk." I paused. "Okay. And who are you?" She hesitated just long enough to make it real. "I'm Kelly. Zach's wife." Zach. The man Rachel had called her Plan B if Greg bailed. The man who didn't just screw me, he screwed his own wife too. Kelly met me at a diner just off the highway. She looked like someone who hadn't slept well in weeks, but still walked like she didn't need anyone's sympathy. She slid into the booth, ordered black coffee, and wasted no time. I read the messages. The ones Rachel sent to Zach. I didn't ask how she got them. She was smart. She had her ways. Then she said it. He told me I was paranoid. Said I was insecure. Turns out I was just early. I nodded. We didn't need to swap sob stories. We already knew each other's. "I'm not here for closure," she said. "I'm here because I want to help burn down what's left of them. And when we're done, I'm disappearing." We traded files, timelines, bank records. Between what I had on Rachel and what she had on Zach, we had a full picture. Lies on top of lies. Affairs disguised as conferences. Company funds rerouted for weekend getaways. "I used to think I could fix him," she said. Then I realized I was just holding the broom while he kept breaking things. I finished my coffee, looked her in the eye, and said, "You're not alone anymore." She didn't smile, but she did exhale. And that was enough. The divorce finalized quietly. No courtroom drama. No last-ditch apology from Rachel. Just a signature, a courier, and the legal end of a marriage that emotionally flatlined a long time ago. Greg? Fired. Greg's wife? Rebuilding. Rachel? From what I heard, she tried to stay in town, didn't last long. Her reputation couldn't hold under the weight of her own choices. Turns out, brunch circles have long memories. Me? I kept the house. Not out of spite. It was just mine to begin with. But I remodeled. New floors, new paint, new everything. I even knocked out the wall in the office where I found that first suspicious hotel receipt. Sometimes a room needs to be gutted before it can feel like yours again. I still talk to Kelly now and then. Not often, but enough. Two people who walked through the same fire and came out knowing who they are. One morning, I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the sun rise over a yard I actually had time to mow. I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. Not bitter. Not broken. Just free. People think stories like mine end with revenge. But they don't. They end with a quiet house, clean sheets, and no lies under the roof. And that's peace.